Walmart says it's investigating allegations of bribery at its Mexican subsidiary, allegations that the company spent millions of dollars to pay off public officials in its rush to build stores there, and that senior Walmart executives tried to cover it up. Sara has the story. Sara.
Eric, a giant headache for the world's largest retailer. Walmart may be looking at steep government fines, executive departures, and all sorts of other fallout. Now, this follows a report in the New York Times over the weekend alleging top Walmart executives shut down the company's internal investigation into whether its Mexican subsidiary paid bribes, more than $24 million in bribes by Walmart de Mexico executives for building permits to speed up the expansion in that country. The key question here, did the retail giant violate the Foreign Corruption Act, which is the U.S. anti-bribery law? For more on this developing story in Walmart, Mexico City, we want to welcome Bloomberg's Crayton Harrison. He's been following the story for us from there. And Crayton, tell us first how it is all playing out in Mexico.
Well, obviously, it's a big scandal everywhere in the world, and there's no exception here. The Mexican government is still studying the measure, the finance minister told us yesterday. So we're not exactly sure what sort of investigation will lead from this, but presumably the anti-corruption agency may have to get involved.
Well, the anti-corruption agency in Mexico, we know that Walmart is going to face scrutiny here in the United States under the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Harrison, what could happen to Walmart in Mexico? You know, the cynics here in the United States would say corruption is nothing new in Mexico.
Right. Well, what could happen is that there would be an investigation of not only the company and its activities in the country, but of presumably of the public officials who were involved in this. So it would kind of take both tacks here in Mexico. And certainly the press is already responding here as well. We don't know a lot about who the public officials were in this country that participated. There's not really a list available yet, and the documents the New York Times has haven't been made public. So that presumably over the next weeks and months we'll be seeing that angle as well.
Key question for Walmart shareholders and others that track this company. I mean, how influential is Walmart in Mexico? How much did these bribes that were laid out very thoroughly in evidence in the New York Times really help Walmart get ahead in this country?
Yeah, that's a good question. Walmart is, by some measures, the biggest private employer in the country. Now, that's if you don't add all the companies that Carlos Slim owns together, but you measure them separately. But if you do that, then Walmart's the biggest private employer. So obviously hugely influential, and it's grown very fast here. As a matter of fact, of all of Walmart stores around the world, Mexico represents about 20%. So it's a huge business, and you find them on every corner down here.
But the question, I suppose, Crayton, as well, is did Walmart really have to pay these bribes? $24 million doesn't sound like a lot of money, so maybe on the one hand...
It's a lot of pesos.
Yeah, I suppose it is perhaps a lot of pesos, but how much slower would Walmart's expansion in Mexico have been, in theory, had it not been willing to pay off public officials, again, assuming these allegations prove true?
Right. Presumably it would have been slower. Obviously what these payoffs tend to do is just grease the wheels in the bureaucracy, which is, of course, pretty Byzantine here in Mexico. Lots of paperwork, lots of lines to stand in. There's a whole industry of fixers, legal fixers, that's called gestores, that Walmart was paying to help handle all this. And those guys have to go and kind of, work through the process of dealing with all the public officials and getting all the building permits approved, all the environmental studies done, all the little things you need to do just to open a building here. So presumably it would have been a lot slower for them to expand so rapidly in the last decade in this country. I don't know how much slower, but it would have, and it might have been costlier as well.